Psalm 119, Day 20. Your steadfast love. We'll be reading verses 121 through 128. I have done what is just and right. Do not leave me to my oppressors. Give your servant a pledge of good. Let not the insolent oppress me. My eyes long for your salvation and for the fulfillment of your righteous promise. Deal with your servant according to your steadfast love, and teach me your statutes. I am your servant. Give me understanding that I may know your testimonies. It is time for the Lord to act, for your law has been broken. Therefore, I love your commandments above gold, above fine gold. Therefore, I consider all your precepts to be right. I hate every false way. Our thoughts today center around verse 124. Deal with your servant according to your steadfast love, and teach me your statutes. Here are three different translations and the way they put this verse. The American Standard Version tells us, deal with thy servant according unto thy loving kindness. The King James Version translates it, deal with thy servant according unto thy mercy. The New International Version says, deal with your servant according to your love. The New King James says, deal with your servant according to your mercy. In a court of law in the United States and perhaps other countries, only one of these terms would fit. You wouldn't hear a defendant say, I throw myself on the loving kindness of the court, or on the steadfast love of the court, or the love of the court. For some, it is the mercy of the court. This brings out perhaps the fullest meaning to them. For given the choice of being guilty or receiving justice or mercy, which is the most likely? Obviously, it is the desire for mercy. I wonder at times what the nuances are in the meaning of those four terms and why translators chose to use them differently in this case, though they all had the Hebrew word chesed in the text. Does the psalmist write this verse from a position of guilt, having committed a sin? Is it the realization of just how unworthy he is, in spite of a good life having been led? Whatever the word one would choose to use, each carries an aspect of God that fits well his character of being just, yet mindful of our tendency to sin. I think of the comparison Jesus made in the parable of the two men who went up to the temple to pray in Luke chapter 18, verses 10 through 14. Two men went up into the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee, standing by himself, prayed thus, God, I thank you that I am not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all I get. But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even lift up his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted. And I connect this to Jesus' Sermon on the Mount and these verses from Matthew chapter 5, verses 3 through 5. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. In the psalmist's attitude of humility, he understands the loving nature of God and desires in his own state, no matter how pious, blameless, or righteous, the need to be taught of God. He is mindful that it is not how he views his life, but how Almighty God reckons him. In that, we lay ourselves before the throne of mercy. Someone once told me, be glad we don't get what we deserve. I've thought of that over the years. The older I get, the more it rings true. Have you considered the mercy of God? And Lord willing, we'll meet again tomorrow.